It means that they had a very interesting system, and we'll learn about it today. It's actually a fascinating Jewish law. And we know that, God forbid, if somebody kills a person on purpose, maliciously, deliberately, that does murder, then we punish them with capital punishment, that the person in return gets a death penalty. So Judaism believes in the death penalty. We discussed this at length in the past, that it's a very high bar of proof to beyond the shadow of a doubt to know that this is really true with two witnesses and so on. Very, very strong, very, very strong in belief in that idea that, but what happens if the guy killed someone, but it wasn't on purpose, right? God forbid somebody is driving a car. An example today would be, such a thing could happen, unfortunately, which does happen, there's a percentage to it, and they kill another person by accident. Now, there's different levels, by the way, by accident. There's a level of freak accident. It was snowing and the car slipped and it was unavoidable. And then there is a little bit more, negligent, where the guy, couldn't see the person. There's like real negligence, where the guy was on his phone and he was drunk, whatever, so on. But a case in between. What happens to that guy? And today we'll learn about a very interesting law that Hashem will command the Jewish people to do. That is that they have something called the City of Refuge. So the guy gets punished. He gets in trouble for not being more careful. Okay, for not being more careful. It was kind of like an unavoidable accident. Maybe had the guy, maybe he could have been a little more careful. Maybe it wasn't totally avoidable, but it wasn't a free case, but it was a mistake. That guy gets punished. What's the punishment? There's a standard punishment for every guy that murders in that kind of a way. And the punishment is that he has to run away to a city of refuge, which is a designated city like we're going to learn today, and he must stay there. If he leaves that city, the relatives are allowed to kill him. But as long as he stays in that city, like home plate and base, in that city, he will live, he won't die. So he has a punishment. What's his punishment? He has to stay in one of the city of refuge, and then he won't get killed. And we're going to learn that Moshe, if you want to learn something interesting today, that remember the Jews had not even gone into Israel yet. What Moshe is going to do something interesting. He's going to place three of these. How many cities of refuge are there? He's going to place 3 cities of refuge in the Transjordan, on the eastern side of the Jordan, before they get into Israel, to operate as those cities to protect. There's 3 different tribes, Reuven, Gad, and half of Manasseh. He's going to give 1 city of refuge to each of those tribes, kind of divided between the area on the eastern side of the Jordan River where they're currently staying, and give them those places to stay. Now, Rashi is going to ask a question, and let's learn about it. We'll see inside. Verse Pasuk Mem Aleph, and the overall trajectory of our class is that Moses is doing the final moments of his life. Before he passes away, he's taking care of business, right? Like a lot of people take care of business. What is Moshe doing as part of taking care of business? He's setting up these cities of refuge. Verse 41, Mem Aleph. Oz Yavdil Moshe. Then Moshe separated Shalish Arim, 3 cities. The Aver Hayardin, on the other side of the Jordan, Mizrach Shamesh, where the sun comes up. That's where he placed these cities of refuge. Where the sun comes up, he placed cities of refuge for the Jewish people. Now Rashi says something's weird here. Why is Moshe separating the cities if the cities will not work, not be operative? These cities of refuge, until the Jews will actually conquer Israel, move in there, which will take another 14 years. It's not even going to be applicable till 14 years later, these cities of refuge. Why would Moshe take the time before he dies, set up a bunch of cities, 3 cities, if it's not even relevant to his time? It's not business going to take it for another 14 years. You want to know what the reason is? Very interesting. Because Moshe is saying, look, any mitzvah I could do before I die, let me do it. Let's get it done. I can set up city of refuge. It won't be operable for 14 years. But look, as long as I'm alive, before I pass away, even though I won't be there when they go into Israel, let me do any mitzvah I can. And he starts creating these cities, setting up the cities that will only become operative after he dies. But he wants to have any mitzvah he can to do before he passes away. Very interesting. Okay, verse 42. La Neshama, what are these cities for? And here the Torah is describing us what these cities are made for. La Neshama, to flee, to run there. Reitzeach, the killer. Asher Yitzach Esre'eu, that killed his friend, Bivli Das, without intent. It wasn't intended murder, right? There's a difference between premeditated or intended murder or just by accident. And he never hated the guy. It's a case where it wasn't intended. He never hated the guy. Mishmol Shilsham yesterday, the day before, there was no, you didn't know that these guys hate each other, right? Because otherwise, if it's a case where they hate each other, then he probably was on purpose. But here it was just a regular guy, didn't hate him. And this killer runs to one of these cities, and he will live. He's allowed to live in that cities. And he tells you what are the names of the cities. As Betzar Bamidbar, one of the cities' name was Betzar. That was in the desert. The Eretz Hamishor in the flatlands, right? The Ruveni that he gave to the tribe of Ruvain, one of the three tribes that were going to get property on the eastern side of the Jordan River. Ves Ramais. Then he made a second city called Ramais. The Gilad in the area called Gilad. The Gadi, he gave that to the Gilad tribe, to the Gadi, to the Gad tribe, the second tribe. That's Goylan, and the third one was called Goylan, Mabashan, the Manashi. He gave it to the Manasseh. So each of the three tribes, they lived in different sections in the eastern side of the Jordan River, and he gave each of them property. Zois HaTorah, and now we're almost done with the Chumash, the short Chumash today, but he's going to start with tomorrow the rest of the Chumash, and it's going to be very interesting Chumash. He's going to review the 10 Commandments with the Jewish people. So this is a prelude to the 10 Commandments that he's going to say in the future days Chumash. Zois HaTorah, this is the Torah. Asher Sham Moshe L'Bnei Yisrael, that Moses put in front of the Jewish people. He's going to review as his last message, his last days, his last message to the Jewish people. He's going to place it all on the table, give them a good review before he passes away, what they learned at Sinai. Ela Eidos, and he says, these are the testimonies, Vachukim, and the testimonies, the statutes, Mishpatim, the laws, all the mitzvahs. Asher Diber Moshe, that Hashem spoke to Moshe B'nai Yisrael to tell the Jewish people, B'tzeis Mitzrayim, when they left Eretz Mitzrayim, when they left Egypt. Now they're in the city in the plains of the Moabite lands. Here he's going to give them the Torah again, review with them the Torah, and he's going to even recount the 10 Commandments. And the Torah is going to rewrite again the same 10 Commandments that we wrote a very long time ago that we were taught when they left Egypt. The Aver Hayardin, they're on the other side of the Jordan River. Bagai, Mulbeis Par, they're in the area called Gai, facing in the valley. Facing the house of Por, where the Por idol was, where they sinned with the Midianite women. The Eretz Sichon, the land of Sichon, the king Sichon, Melech Hamor, was the king of the Amorites, who they conquered the land from him. Yeshu Becheshbon, that sat in the fortified, massive city Cheshbon, what the Jews conquered. Shehika Moshe, that Moses smit them, and Israel and the Jewish people. But Tzeis Mitzrayim, when they left Egypt, but Yishar is Artze, and they inherited their land. So that's Eretz Og. They also got the whole country of Og. They got all the way north. Melech HaBashan, who was king of that whole northern area called the Bashan. The two kings of the Amorites, that's on the eastern side, Mizrach Shemesh, where the sun comes up from the eastern side of the Jordan River. After they conquered the land, right there, Moses is going to do a full recap, go over a lot of the laws of the Torah. All the way from the river of the Arnon River, which is kind of the middle of the Jordan River area, all the way up at Har Sion Hu Hermon to the Hermon Mountains, which we said all the way to the north, to capture that whole swath of area, Sarava, and the plains of Aver Hayardin on the other side of the Jordan River, the whole area called the plains of that area, Mizrach on the eastern side by Yam Harava till the river of the plains, Tachas Ashtas Pisca under the waterfalls of the hill, they capture that whole area. And right now, as we're going to see in the future Chumash, which we're not going to discuss today, Moshe is going to repeat to them all the laws. So again, Moses catches in another mitzvah which he wants to do, and that is the mitzvah of setting aside the refugee area where there'll be refugees. The people that have killed someone by mistake will now live as refugees, and they'll have to camp out in those cities until, by the way, till the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, passes away. They're going to be locked up, roaming within that city of the refugee city.